checking to see when the other One Piece Virgin podcast last posted, because it's been a little bit. I might have to declare victory again.
Provoke them into uploading again?
Yes, I think that's what happened last time. They were embarrassed by me. The Rant Cafe. Wow. September 11th, they reviewed Amazon Lily. They're getting into the best fucking arc in the entire thing, and they haven't posted in 5 weeks, Eggy. Once again, this One Piece Virgin Eggheads Book Club podcast declares victory over the other One Piece Virgin podcast. I am the captain of the measly crew, Monkey D. Jones, here for volume 63 of One Piece, motherfuckers, that's right! Joined by your vice captain, Eggy, V. Rodriguez, as he takes a big sip of brew.
That's right, this here is some lemon tea of some kind. It's got some special qualities to it, but just like Queen Odo Hime, I'm living that peaceful lifestyle. I put down the grain alcohol and picked up that brain alcohol with no alcohol, that's right.
Otohime. I can't believe you pronounced that right without having to hear it said out loud. That's pretty good. Eggy, we are here covering chapters 615 to 626, which, if my count is correct, 12 chapters in a single volume of One Piece. Is this unprecedented? Is Oda trying to stuff as much Fishman Island into our eyes as possible?
As far as I can remember, usually because I kind of count on average how long it takes me to read a volume. It's usually like a little over an hour typically, and I think that usually runs about 10 chapters, maybe 11. So I think 12 is the highest that I can remember in a volume since I've been counting it, to be honest.
I feel like during Marineford we had some that were like maybe even 9. So to suddenly have 12, I'd be goddamn. But he wants us to read all of this delightful flashback, and I'll say, this flashback might be the peak of Fishman Island so far, now that we're about 3 volumes into it. But enough about my thoughts. Eggy, what are your top of mind?
Well, to be honest, I have to say, what provoked my most significant off-the-cuff reaction in this volume was probably to see the great grand opening of Chow Chow Foods. That's right.
This might be my favorite cover story so far, and it's just one panel of every place we visited so far and what people are up to after the time skip. It delights me so much. Dodon making scrapbooks about Ace and Luffy's adventures, which there's a lot of Ace books there, and I feel like there's not going to be too many more. A rice ball girl who risked everything to feed Zoro is now employed at a restaurant, which I don't know if that's a bright future. 9-year-old girl slaving away to make food for these fucking cops. Like, go to the playground maybe, but
there's like a narrator's or editor's note saying that she's got like her own kind of rice ball. So maybe she's really on some Gordon Ramsay, getting it out of the dirt type business.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Zoro told her it tastes good with dirt, so maybe she's mixing dirt in.
Speaking of culinary excellence, Gaimon. Oh, he's a Gaimon cell, no more.
Eggy, do you remember? Maybe 30, 40 volumes ago, I was naming off every moment in One Piece that made me cry. And I said chapter 430, which is when the Going Merry sinks. I also said the cover story of 620. And we're finally there. Gaimon got a girlfriend who's also in a barrel. Oh my fucking god. Yes. God, I'm crying. Gaimon and Sarfunkel! Ah! Oh, and he did it again! He set us up for that pun in fucking chapter, 20. And then 600 later, he nails us, dude! Fucking brilliant.
I mean, all I could really say is the position that Oda has as being one of the top-selling authors in history This is why nobody else has ever done this. Nobody else ever will be able to accomplish this. This is beauty in the creative sense, beauty in the romantic sense. It really just satisfies on every level that I could possibly imagine. And I mean, there's a lot going on here in this volume. It's very charged. It's very complex, very layered. There's really a lot to think about. Might be one of the most thought-provoking volumes that we've had in a while, to be quite sincerely honest. But these cover stories, I mean, I hate to be like, oh, you know, I just love something because it came before something else, but it certainly was very impactful to see, you know, Kuina's gravesite, if we're talking about things that happened at like chapter 20 back in the day. I'm like, oh, Kuina, that's definitely something going on here. Oh, it's trickery. She's probably not even dead. You know, 600 chapters later, I'm starting to think that possibly Kuina might be dead on it. It's, I'm starting to falter a little bit.
Hey, they gave Charlie Kirk a grave, but we don't know that he's really dead. I only seen a yellow corpse and never actually seen any proof of death. They didn't do an autopsy, right? All I'm saying, Charlie Kirk and Kuina, it's hashtag Charlie Kuina. Get it trending, people.
Well, speaking of people who, you know, get assassinated in a political way, this volume does also.
How many top of minds can one man have, is my question.
You know, I'd probably say it could be like a top 5 in most.
Wow. What a
most
volume.
volumes, I think.
Well, before we abandon Gaimon, I should point out, people wanted us to watch the One Piece fan letter, and we did. Was Gaimon in that? I think he was in that. No, maybe he wasn't in that. But what did you think of the One Piece fan letter? I'm thinking of Chapter 0 that Gaimon was briefly in, probably.
Well, I enjoyed it very much. You know, it was like, hey, I'm not self-inserting as like a 10-year-old girl for the most part, in most instances, but, you know, I definitely...
You know what's fucked up is that girl is supposed to be 2 years younger than Nami was at the beginning of One Piece. That's a strange design for a 15-year-old. Come on, guys. She looks fucking 9. It's just confusing.
Yeah. Speaking of, you know, confusing designs for young women, there's plenty of that in this volume as well. Homeboy Vander, Decken pulling up on 6-year-old girl.
So little thoughts on the fan letter. I liked the detail that Sniper King had a bounty, but not Usopp. So when she meets Usopp, she has no idea. That was cool. And I like the idea that they only were able to leave because of an impact they had on somebody who they didn't even know existed. It wasn't enough of all the direct friendships they made along the way to stop the Marines, but like a girl who was inspired by Nami 2 years ago was crucial to their escape, and they never even knew it. And I think that goes to show the impact you have on people's lives even when you don't know it. And I think there's, you know, hundreds of people who listen to these shows who never comment, and we leave an impact on their lives that we don't know about. And maybe one day they'll stop cops from arresting us, and we'll never even know it was a fan who saved us, Eggy.
Well, I do have something for that because, there was recently, a few days ago, I took a little trip down to the great state of Florida, and I went to this John Mouse concert. It was really rocking. And there was a guy that was like pretty much next to me, up towards the front, you know, rocking out. It was like 2 or 3 hours. We didn't move at all because it was so packed. We would have lost our spot. So we just stayed up there. Didn't say anything to me. Didn't look at me. None of that this whole time. And then after the show ended and everything started clearing out, he's like, oh, yeah, we used to talk like 8.5 years ago. And he's like telling me all this stuff from like all these like chats that we were having like 8.5 years ago. And I was like, damn. I had no idea at all. And he's telling me about like, you know, how his life progressed and like the people around him. He's like, oh, do you remember so-and-so? And, you know, he lives over here now and he does this for a living, and just kind of breaking it all down in like this 5-10 minute conversation. And then just like shaking hands and being like, all right, well, yeah, it's been real. Those are good times. I'm glad we had those good times. And I wish you well, you know, until next time, you know, whatever year that might be. So it's very true, folks. Everything that you do in this world can have a reverberating effect you know, it could be the smallest thing and you just wouldn't even know. Every time you're going outside every single day, it's like another chapter is being written. It sounds cliche. It sounds like, you know, you don't even think twice about it on your average day, but there's been a lot of days of mine in my life that started off very innocently enough, very uneventful, that ended up becoming so much more. It's a beautiful thing. This life it is, yes. It feels like
Not so beautiful if the message is whatever song you sing will follow you. 'Cause sometimes you sing some bad songs. I might be singing a happy one now, but I forgot about that dark period, and why is that following me? Get the fuck away. So be careful about what lyrics you sing in your life song, folks, because it all follows you, all of it. But what is my top of mind? That's the real question of Volume 63. What do we think of Sanji? Wait, did this happen yet? Did Sanji say something really mean to Jinbei? Did I?
Well, he's cured. He does have some words. I'm trying to remember what the circumstance was.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil if he said it next volume. I don't know why. I can't remember if he said it this time or if it's after the flashback. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. I'm confused. This flashback timeline is all confusing to me.
Well, actually, yeah, you're right. Though. No, it's in regards to Jinbei freed Arlong. You know, when they went their separate ways, Jinbei's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna say what Tiger had going on. You know, he's full of this disdain for humans, but I'm not gonna put that on the next generation. Arlong, he said, yeah, I'm gonna put that on everybody. You know, time for humans to die, master race time. And Arlong went on his way, which then, yeah, we get the little flashback play out of Nami being horribly tortured by the Arlong pirates, her mother being
maybe
killed.
That's my top of mind. I thought that was a little excessive, and I'm pretty sure the line I'm thinking of will be next week, so I'll save that for next week. But did we need multiple pages reliving Nami's flashback that we've already seen? I understand the point of view of, it's 2011 and the weekly readers might not have experienced this since before Y2K, but you have to write from the point of view of, hopefully, I don't know, for marketing purposes and shit, and you're like doing a whole new, One Piece has started over at the time skip, so you could join in now. It's pretty much a new beginning. Why not? Maybe you need to flashback to give all the characters backstories again, but I would like it if you wrote from the point of view of everybody is obsessively memorizing all of this, and I don't need to remind them in a multiple page flashback of scenes they've literally already seen. Like, that's some Naruto territory. Flashback should be shit I've never seen before. We need a separate word for it.
But I feel like in this instance, I'm very for the way that it was presented, because we're getting really into the thick of the conflict and of the history between the fishmen and the humans, and we're at this point now where Nami is working with Jinbei, and she's they've been working towards the same goal. They have not been violently opposed, and I feel like for where I was at least anyway, that's something that I'm kind of just going with mentally. There isn't really anything that's kind of holding me up and making me really think and reconsider how that would come to be, and if this really is something that is acceptable to be coming together like that. So then I think to have the flashback come through and really like panel to panel contrasting the brutality that Nami had to suffer for years, that really impacted her entire life development completely as a result of Jinbei's actions. I'm kind of thinking, like, I don't know, like, to be honest, now that I think about it, if I was Nami, I might be like, man, fuck these fishmen, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, power to the people, but you did kind of like get my family murdered and like ruin my life, and have me kidnapped.
I feel you on that, but literally 2 years ago we saw her forgive Hachi already, so I feel like it would be a character regression for this to be another issue.
But Hachi, I mean, with all due respect, like he's always kind of a little goofy. I don't know. Maybe it's his giant like squid, like soy lips. Or like, oh, what are you, versus Jinbei, who just looks very, as they say, his power is incredible. He just looks like he embodies a more sullen, serious kind of person, to where I just instinctually take him more serious versus Hachi, who's kind of just goofy. He's given Zoro a ride to Arlong Park back in the day, just kind of like, oh, what's up, guys?
So what exactly did Jinbei do wrong? He made a deal with the government that I'll become a warlord, but then you will free all of my fishmen, sun pirate brethren who are being enslaved by you. And since Arlong was freed in that, then he can go to the East Blue and wreak havoc. At what point am I not my brother's keeper? Like, Jinbei is freeing his blood brother from slavery from a fascist government, and now anything that Arlong does for the rest of his life is on Jinbei? I don't know if that's fair. I think Arlong can take personal responsibility for wasting his life with evil.
I mean, I do agree, and there's really nothing I don't think that Jinbei could have done. He would have either needed Arlong to remain incarcerated or remain enslaved. So I think any way that he could have had his free will, we see he would have, taken it all the way, no matter what, because that's what his belief was. He was driven by that bloodlust, by that disdain for humans, by his fishman supremacist ideals. I mean, it was a defining thing for him that he needed to retain that very intense passion for these beliefs in order to keep driving him towards his ultimate goal. So I think it would have been a very tough call for Jinbei, and he wouldn't have had any idea what exactly would have happened. But I mean, I suppose he could have at least figured that Arlong was probably going to kill some humans. But yeah, it's like, it's tough, and it's unfortunate, that the way that it played out, and then had everybody who was involved in different ways with Jinbei and the Straw Hats kind of coming back and meshing together under these circumstances. But all the same, it's one of those things, and I feel like a theme in this volume in general is really grappling with, being able to forgive certain slights, or are you gonna, stand on your grudge, stand on your revenge? Very, very much the message that's kind of going on all throughout here.
I like the consistency. If you go back to chapter 69, you'll see that scene where he says, Jinbei released the Fishman Pirate, so at least I would have had this planned a decade earlier. And I like the juxtaposition of Arlong Park and Sabaody Park, just in case a reader missed that at some point. So you can see that Arlong was really just trying to bring his childhood dream to life, and so what if some humans have to suffer in the way that Fishman did? He's doing some reverse racism in his fantasy East Blue world. So it does add some interesting depth to Arlong, but I did not need multiple pages seeing previous Nami torture scenes. That's just me, though. I felt like maybe Oda did not have enough material to fill up that chapter, maybe. I don't know.
Well, and then we have then having the 1 to 2 extra chapters to fill out the volume is kind of, I think we talked about this last week too. Like maybe kind of the pacing steps aren't 100%, in line with the most optimal, but it's maybe that you could, on a meta level, hey, it's playing into the message of the volume here is that sometimes things are trickier than we think, and that could extend from compassion to your persecutor, and how you want to pace your manga volume.
We don't have any new members today, so we can skip all that shit. And if we go chronologically, I won't be so confused about which events happen in this book and which ones are coming up next. Which Sanji does yell at Jinbei briefly, so that's why I thought it might have happened here, but there's just such an iconic Sanji line, you'll know it when you see it. But starting at chapter 615, we get an answer to a question Eggy had. Now, Vander Decken, they didn't call him a devil fruit user, they said he had a curse. Well, he's a fish man, so to them, not being able to swim is a pretty big curse, and that's why they use that vernacular, I suppose. but he has the Mark fruit, and you could have one designation for each hand, and that's why he's wearing that glove. Another Eggy mystery revealed. He doesn't want to change his marking from when he touched a 6-year-old child. So he wears his pedophile Michael Jackson glove. He says he hasn't washed his hand in a decade. The villains in this arc, I don't know. They crack me up.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Well, at least there's really no way to ever actually Vander Decken's obsession with a 6-year-old girl and just be like, oh, if I use the magic treasure, we can get her to get old enough for marriage right now, so I won't be such a sicko.
Yeah, get the tomate box to age her up. Is that an anti-pedophile defense? If Chris Hansen has you dead to rights, you say, no, listen, I have a magical box in my car that will age her up? Does that mean you're not a pedo anymore? Because I want this child, but I just want her when she's of age. I think that's pretty pedo. I don't think Vander Decken has a good excuse. Even if this is all a plot just to get treasure. All of this 9 generations of Vander Deckens doing all this nonsense to get with the mermaid princess, and the end goal is just treasure. I feel like they could do many other things to get treasure.
Allegedly, the princess with this special ability that I have her name here, Shira Oshi.
Her name's Wimpy, I think. Wimpy Crybaby.
Right. Wimpy, but she's still hefty.
Yeah. And she could talk to the sea beasts, the Neptunians. Which I guess makes sense. If your dad's Neptune, why not talk to the Neptunians?
That's right. Allegedly, her power comes around every 300 years, so Vander Decken, it's just poor timing, really, when you think about it. He could have met her when she was 40 years old, and she's single and still more ready to mingle than ever. And we would say, oh, Vander Decken, he's a straight-up cougar, but cougar hunter. But, well, in any case, yes, at least we know that it's just stench maxing is why he needs to keep his hand gloved, and not because he loves Michael Jackson and he wants to create his own Neverland at Neverland Park. The final trio of the Park trilogy, Fishman.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to that. Luffy will destroy Fishman Island to turn it into Neverland Park.
Neptune wants to kill Vander Decken because he's owning 100% of his rights to the Mark fruit.
What about this? Frankie meets Tom's brother Den, and he coats the ship. Hey, problem solved. Now we can get the hell out of here. Like Jinbei wants us to.
Well, I think that it was a very welcome introduction, because were we told that Tom had a brother at all during the flashback at Water 7?
Not that I recall.
And I know that Dan, he does say here that it's a human exclusive thing for siblings to resemble each other. There's so many species of fish, basically like, hey, if one fish ever swam into each other's egg sacs or whatever and started getting freaky with it, really it could be any kind of mixed bag, but they're still related. So
would that cure human racism if any race could pop out of a woman? I think some women try to make that excuse sometimes. I know. Why is he black? I don't know. It's magic. Fishman DNA.
The recessive genes. You had somebody that was a little different 16 generations ago.
Yeah, my great grandfather was a slave. That's why our son's black. Oh, honey.
It's probably been something like that. If we maybe like 3 or 4 generations, it's probably happened at least a couple times historically. I mean, we got people getting born with
I don't think so.
heads that are like, they have heads that are as big as like entire room. They got multiple limbs. Maybe that's just an Indian.
People have been born with heads as big as a room. That poor pussy. It's never feeling my meat again.
I've seen a picture of like an Indian
You've
shop.
Seen this? You've seen this? He wasn't born with a head that big, right?
But it was like at least like the width of a bed. So.
Like, did he have a tumor?
I think so, yeah.
It's not a tumor. Blaze. No, it's either Blaze or Shoji. Somebody's pissed. Probably Shoji.
I'm thinking probably it was a 300-year rebirth of a great god that we didn't know about, and if they just had nourished the child properly, the head could have grown Yakubian size. But
took him to the ocean and see if he can talk to giant fish.
Nobody's tried. Oda knows something we don't. I think it's been pretty consistent throughout. I believe it.
Okay, we've been approaching Vander Decken from a pedophile point of view. Let's scratch that. Let's pretend it's okay. 16 is the age of consent in Fishman Island. It's fine. Sanji himself is cured by seeing the most beautiful 16-year-old girl he's ever seen in his life, and now he's not having nosebleeds anymore. So I guess we're all just accepting that our heroes are attracted to this person. It's whatever. Vander Decken, let's approach him instead from an incel point of view. Is he incel representation? Because he's obsessed with this woman. He finally gets to her and she says, "You're just not my type." And I imagine, men with Vander Decken's mustache that can't connect in the middle like mine, same little shitty beard I would have, obsesses over a girl autistically, and then just through no matter how hard you work, how much you better yourself, sometimes you're just not somebody's type. And, Vander Decken has a classic Elliot Rodger incel line: "If I can't have you, no one can, I'll kill you." So how do you think Vander Decken, does he work as an incel villain here for you?
Very much so. And I also enjoy that, his unity with Hody, because Hody is represents under Arlong, their ages weren't so different, but I think enough to be generational, like 15 and 30 or something like that, or 15 to 25, whatever, somewhere in that ballpark, right? And so Hody being the most extreme racial supremacist that's ever existed, in the history of his people, and a steroid user, and he's teaming up with a guy who's been chasing a girl for 10 years and, throwing anything he can get his hands on, not bathing, just throwing shit at her wall over and over again. He finally gets an opportunity to say, "Hey, hello, would you like to be my Discord kitten today?" And he goes, "Ew, you're not even child." No.
So is Hody Jones the Chad here? He grew up in the ghetto, but now he's the football star, taking all the steroids and sinking ships with his hands tied behind his back, teaming up with the incel kid to do their palace shooting.
I'm thinking it's real. And I mean, especially if you look at it from that angle, and then you go through the whole Tiger flashback with him and his crew, and overcoming the oppression, we can make peace with the humans, and they could really be our great friends, and we need to stop harboring this resentment towards the normies, humans, and we could all just
is that what we do in our One Piece abridged when we finally make it to Fishman Island? Is this exact setup that the Chad, the incel, they want to just get revenge on the normies? It's not even about Fishman supremacy, it's just King Neptune is a normie. But why would Hody Jones as the Chad want to kill the normies?
Well, he's got the steroids, he's got the racial supremacism, and he's got a good, Chad build as far as aesthetics go. But he also is quite rotund. Maybe he's he just, he couldn't help himself. He had a little too much good Hachi squid balls, he kind of fattened up a little too much, and it kind of made him bitter.
We'll get to it. Our abridged series, we just watched all 9 episodes of Nun Piece, so we know who not to rip off with his comedic stylings. And maybe every arc should only be 1 episode, because he did 3 episodes in Syrup Village, and even in the abridged it got a little old. And then he did Barati in 1, Jesus Christ. So we'll do all of Fishman Island in a 1 6-minute episode. How's that sound?
Brevity is the soul of wit, as somebody always says.
Not us on this podcast, because we usually run about 2 hours.
That's right.
What do you think of this from King Neptune? And Eggy, I'm thinking ahead. One day, maybe a year from now, we're going to be doing a Fishman Island character tier list. And I'm wondering if maybe Fishman Island is lacking in S and A tier new characters that are being introduced in this arc. And King Neptune here has a standout moment that I don't know makes him closer to S or maybe closer to C. So I want to get your take. The new Fishman pirates are invading the castle, and the king and all his men are tied up by Zoro. And Neptune says, "I'll give you anything you want. Let me go after Decken. You can have all my treasure. You can slay my soldiers." So he loves his daughter so much and wants to protect her from this pedophile that he says, "You can kill all of my soldiers." Is that based or is that cringe?
Well, there kind of seems to be a little bit of a pattern here for that, perhaps, because we also have Hody Jones grabbing somebody to use as a fishman shield against Zoro's initial sword slash and killing him. So maybe it's their culture, perhaps. Like, hey, you know what? It is what it is. We don't even look like each other. We're just all like fish, and our mom's giving birth to like squids and sharks and whatever. Like we're maybe, I don't know.
Well, could the love of a daughter who also has a 300-year-old mythical power to control thousands of giant monsters, maybe that's more important than the lives of these lowly soldiers?
Yeah, I would say, in a perfect world, it's horrible, but
does it make you like him or dislike him when he does that? I can't imagine King Cobra saying that. Of course, the One Piece King Cobra.
Mm-hmm. I feel it's not that I like it. I don't think. I understand it though, because this is a royal family. Yes, you are my loyal subject, but maybe in a very isolated instance, a captain going down with the ship is what's right and honorable. But Neptune does have a lot of people outside of this who are counting on him. His kingdom, Ryugu, it's ready to be invaded by the new Fishman pirates. Untold slaughter. If he needs to, maybe make a less honorable decision to sacrifice one of his top brass in order to, it's could definitely leave a stain on his reputation, but sometimes you have to make those tough calls.
He's a desperate man.
I think he was in the right to do it. Not a positive thing, but I think it was a call that needed to be made.
Okay, what do you think of this? Chapter, 618. I think Oda makes a very funny decision. We're slowly building up these two villains in this arc, Hody and Vander Decken, and in the very same chapter, they're both basically defeated in one attack by Zoro and Luffy. Like, underwater, Zoro still is faster than Hody and slices him up. And then Luffy, jet hammers Vander Decken into the ground. So not even a fight. These supposed final bosses of the arc get obliterated easily by our post-time skip trained up protagonists here. Like, what do you make of that? Is there any threat left in Fishman Island?
Well, as I seem to recall, I felt like this might have been not the greatest, because we see Zoro do that. I kind of have to make peace with this happening, because we know that they just are fresh off the time skip. Their power is incredible. We don't really have even a good gauge for their power right now, because we saw them, put down the pacifistas instantly, like in a split second. Everything is total noobishness to them. They can kill everything instantly in 1 second. I felt like, we see Hody Jones get slashed. Looks like it's over for him. We see him pop that pill. Okay, that power steroid, the one that's going to make him burn twice as hard for half his lifespan or whatever. But he pops it, takes it. I'm ready for some really incredible steroid-fueled combat, just like when I watch MMA. I'm ready for that goodness. And I kind of feel like we didn't really get that by the end of the volume. It's kind of, we're so focused. We go into race relations for, more so above everything else, and diplomacy and all of this, which is fine.
Think of the children.
It was, like I said, a very thought-provoking volume overall. But if you're gonna show him taking the steroids, I mean, I'm trying to see some Popeye the Hody Man business. I'm trying to see him start putting some steam out of his ears, make his eyes roll in the back of his head. Maybe he's gonna be looking like from The Exorcist. His body's gonna start floating in the air, spinning around. Something's going on. It felt like should have been more there, and it wasn't there for me. But the initial combat, I think it makes sense.
The concept of Zorro moving faster underwater than like a shark fish man is absurd. I wish I could have seen him, what the hell he did to propel himself, but we just kind of see like off-panel attack and then he's slashed up. So interesting choice.
We don't even see him unsheath the sword, like he's holding on to the hilt in the sheath and just like is not like it's not even like an instant transmission. It's just a single panel of like holding onto the hilt in the sheath. Hody's like, I'm like in like visible blood. I'm like, damn, Zorro.
I just read a note that gave me a sick feeling in my stomach, Eggy. So Sanji, he's only what, 4 years older than Shirahoshi? Whatever. Frankie, he's a man in his 30s. He's twice the age of Shirahoshi, and he says, "Who's that gorgeous babe with you?" Damn.
I mean, is there something to be said? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, when I'm thinking Shirahoshi, she's
mentally 6, to be clear. Like, she hasn't even left her room in 10 years. So they can't even make the, she's mature for her age argument. No, she's actually extremely immature. She still cries like a 6-year-old crybaby. So you motherfuckers stop staring at the titties of what is basically mentally a toddler.
What's that? That's not Sleeping Beauty. Or who's the Rapunzel? Yeah.
Oh, Fiona from Shrek.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe a little Rapunzel coated. I mean, I don't know, she's been having to duck, dodge all kinds of murderous projectiles, human bodies and stuff flying at her door. They say when you're in a war zone, it actually makes you mentally age even more. So maybe she's got that 1,000-year-old witch mentality.
She's crying too much to be shell-shocked. But, Frankie, he doesn't know how old this mermaid is. I'll give him the pass.
Well, when you're a cyborg, legally, I am more than 50% metal, and therefore there is no age of consent for robots. It is what it is, legality too.
If anything, she's the pedophile. I'm only 2 years old in this form. Sanji turns into stone very briefly upon seeing this teenager, but then he's cured again, like I said before. And then what? Sanji's guilt tripping a little bit. Nami flashback for no reason. Caribou has a brief scene saying he wants to kidnap Shirahoshi. So, what's your prediction here? Is he going to be successful in this? Because he's the only villain in this arc that has not been easily defeated so far. He's actually kind of winning.
Well, what I anticipate, what I thought when I saw that panel, is I think we're going to have a situation that is very similar to him coming down to Fishman Island with the Straw Hats in the first place. Something where he's very self-assured, has no even inkling of a doubt to his abilities. And then he's going to find himself in a situation where he is severely disadvantaged and is probably going to try and, play some trick or some tactic. At which point, I think something would happen that would knock the stolen mermaids out of his possession somehow. Or maybe it could be like he's gonna melt fruit at Shirahoshi and then somehow get get impacted in some way in the midst of that, which then that would present the opportunity for the other mermaids to escape from his grasp. So classic dog in the reflection, or whatever that parable's called, where you're always angling for more, greedy. You could climb back in your barrel and wait patiently to leave and be perfectly rich when you get back to Sabaody right now, and be a feared, wealthy, up-and-coming warlord,
So basically, you're taking the coward's way out, and you don't want to admit you believe in a total Caribou victory, and he gets everything he ever wanted and sells Shirahoshi for 2 billion berry at the auction house.
Well, it would be the heist of a lifetime, and he obviously has the guts to go for it.
Endless swampy guts, hell yeah. He's got a very nifty power for kidnapping. We forgot to mention the fate of Hachi here. He, as if it wasn't bad enough getting shot by that celestial dragon on our behalf, now he's riddled with 80 arrows. He used to be an adventurer like you until he took 100 arrows to the back.
I was surprised that he took the initial dagger attack so well, because he didn't see it coming at all. At least he was giving chase to the arrows. Maybe a couple of them got taken down by some rocks or something. But he's in a very rough condition here. Thankfully, it's that good old
Chopper's doctrine.
Resilience. Yeah, can coincidentally being screamed, "Oh, there's a fish man covered in blood," and Chopper being close enough within earshot to be able to hear that and start making his abilities to help Hachi recover. Hopefully when this is all said and done, he could just get a nice, I know there's one of the cover stories here that's, it's Patty, I think it is. Patty's got his underwater dessert ship. I think it's just the perfect place for some dessert squid balls. Maybe Hachi could go link up and, they should be friendly to pirates over there. Get him locked in because, damn, he's been here since the Liberation days. He should not be having to get killed still to this day.
Well, if the live-action One Piece is to be considered canon, Arlong just shows up to the Brotier, right? They've ruined all those storylines for no reason. So, maybe Hachi has been here before to share his recipes. I fucking hope not, though. Hachi wasn't even in the live action, actually. They ripped him off. Fucking idiots! Fucking morons! Eggy, we had some comments that I should have read earlier but forgot about.
Well, before you do, I just want to say one thing because it's pertinent to more of the beginning of the volume here. But Homeboy Megalo, possibly the most comedic depiction of anything that happens in this entire volume, is horrible pained expressions of suffering to be stuffed with Shirahoshi crammed into him all the while. Just absolute suffering of the highest caliber, but it is incredibly hilarious. So
I'd say the other funniest panel is when the celestial dragon who's shipwrecked in Fishman Island says, "I'm here to recover my slaves." Fucking like you're in any position. But we got some very satisfied customers in the comments, Eggy, because we are now doing monthly members exclusive content on this channel, going off every other month, reviewing the One Piece movies and doing character tier lists. And we finally did the Water 7 Saga tier list. Next month, we're going to review the first 3 One Piece movies all in one major podcast, so prepare for that. But some reviews of our tier list of Water 7. Random letters, numbers, and symbols says, "I'm so happy I became a member. Where else are you going to see someone completely unironically put Tangent and Foxy in S tier? Meanwhile, characters like Garp, Blackbeard, Ace, and Professor Clover don't even make it out of C tier. That's my captain and co-captain right there." And then Love Machine replied, "I laughed so hard when they put Kobe below Ganbei." Which, if you don't know who Ganbei is, that's the rabbit bunny pet of Chimney.
Listen, hey, here's something free for you non-members. Check it out, okay? Ganbei is there with Chimney going through on a cat, rabbit,
He doesn't know what he is. He's special.
The special animal sidekick is over there. There's Buster calls going on. There's Barry Good. He's flying around. He's turning his body into cannonballs. It's crazy. It's out of control. Rob Lucci's turning into a beast and throwing you through walls. And there's giant Godzilla choppers. Okay, all that. What is Kobe doing? Oh, hey guys, I like been training and stuff, dude. Yeah.
Here's some deep lore about the world, guys. You hear about the new world? You hear about the Yonko? I'm
Show
Kobe.
me Kobe. You know what? He could have at least showed up to the Buster call and like jumped up and chased Luffy down or something. Earned that spot. Okay. Ganbei was there. He put his feet to the fire. Kobe, listen, I'm sure
Do you
he's been
think
doing
Kobe
great,
will
whatever.
break out of C tier for the Marineford tier list? He did a little bit more for you there?
Yes.
Okay, good.
You know, it was, we'll get to what happened when we do that. Make sure to like, subscribe, and become a member. We'll get into it then, and we've already talked about it when it happened too. But, he might not have been the greatest victory, perhaps, but he put that skin in the game. That's what I respect.
Shoe Hunter said, I forgot to mention, whenever the fortune teller said Luffy would destroy Fishman Island, my first time watching, my response was, you all will be cheering as he does it. What do you think? Do you think that will be the circumstance that all of these fishmen will actually be cheering for Luffy to destroy their home?
Well, if Queen Otohime, her dream of that more elevated location, a brighter and sunnier and happier tomorrow, and maybe they'll need something to get something to uproot them a little bit or help them move upwards. Let all the vicious, bloodthirsty, new era fishmen, as we've seen throughout history, if there's a couple people that are living together and they can't seem to figure it out, the best thing to do is for their countries to secede from each other and separate and become two different separate countries, that are just living in proximity to each other and doing
like
their
the
own thing.
Berlin Wall? Did that work out well?
All I know is when you talk about like Albania, Bosnia, whatever these other countries,
Korea.
I can't point them out on a map, but I think they're not communism anymore, and they got food to eat, and they can go on the internet and call me all kinds of slurs, and I can do the same to them. So that sounds like a happy ending to me.
What's the point we're trying to make?
That there could be a better so-called ruin of the initial Fishman Kingdom could just be a catalyst for Queen Otohime's dream. She wanted to go up further to the surface, and so that's separation.
True. And hey, I know of a big ship that might fit the whole kingdom, and if they want to move everybody somewhere else without swimming for some reason.
Well, speaking of great comments and user contributions, I got something special here, a gift that was given to me. My girlfriend, one of her best friends, is an artist who loves One Piece. And so she made this for me, a special One Piece keychain.
Wow, actually made Usopp black. More impressive than what Toei's been doing lately. Hey, that's pretty good. So shout out to your girlfriend's friend, which makes it your friend-in-law, I believe.
That's right. I would consider saying her name, but she happens to have the exact same name as my girlfriend, so...
Do you think that Luffy has a friend-in-law?
Look into the panel behind you there might be a friend in the future. At least an ally who helped him recover. That's right.
Eggy, during our bathroom break, I saw some chilling news on Reddit. Tonight's new South Park episode is about the 6-7 meme. So we might have to skip that as well as Survivor tonight. All of our favorite established shows are going to shit. But not One Piece. It keeps getting better. Eggy, walk us through, for the rest of this podcast, the epic Otohime Koala Arlong flashback. All your favorite fish are here.
All right, well, very interesting. I thought at first that so we start off, the flashback goes back 16 years to Fishman Island, and I thought that perhaps the gentleman who was committing this robbery that then gets slapped like a bitch.
Like Will Smith just heard a really funny joke.
Keep my citizen's name out your fucking arm. But he kind of looked like Jinbei combined with Jesus Burgess a little bit, so I thought maybe the guy that was in the mask was going to be somebody we'd recognize, but yeah, not so much as far as I can tell. But this opening here with Queen Otohime, I feel like is such a great way to really give you an immediate perception of her character. that her idea is, she wants to be very hands-on with this treatment of criminals. So she's literally, to punish the criminal, she's going to go break her own hand by hitting him as hard as possible. So basically trying to be very personable, very intimate about her way of handling this.
But then she's weeping in despair that one of her subjects even was in a position that he needed to steal to feed his family. So she's also like upset in herself for not being a good enough ruler, which One Piece has a lot of fantasy elements, I'll admit. Devil fruits, fishmen in general. It's all this magical stuff. Might be the least realistic thing I've ever read in any fiction. Like somebody in the government is weeping because a citizen has a hard life. Could you imagine if we elected a politician that genuinely cared and like felt pain for us and wasn't just trying to get away with their corruption and get as much Israeli money in their bank as possible, fuck as many children on islands as possible? Wouldn't it be great if like Queen Otohime or Sheriff Joe from Eddington, as I'm going to talk about on our next podcast, if people like this actually were in charge, wouldn't that be nice?
Well, I kind of see it as, like I said, this is in my opinion, it's a very complex series of things here for the second half of this volume with the flashbacks. A lot of personality traits to contend with to kind of come to your conclusion of how you want to feel about somebody. She is the queen, so yes, she is royalty and in this leadership position. But the way that she conducts herself kind of reminds me of like a, bleeding heart, right? So where she's maybe is so sympathetic or displaying such a degree of empathy that it then becomes something that is detrimental to her own well-being and her own person. And it kind of goes back and forth here, and I think it really can have you come to your own conclusion. But for where it starts here, as she's called in a direct quote here, the passionate embodiment of love. It's something that is, fantasy is a good way to describe it, just in general, because it's almost excessive. But I've seen things kind of like it. I've seen people who try to be like this. But
anybody in a position of power who's not lying to our faces like AOC, pretending to give a fuck while voting along party lines and raking in the money. Net worth goes up 8,000% overnight somehow.
Or they got those secret sicko elements. It's like Gandhi, like, oh, I just need these young girls to sleep next to me to recharge my chakra.
Well, we did watch a pretty good Michael Jackson documentary about how he can't sleep at night without a little kid in his bed with him. If you love me, you'll get into bed. That's my Michael Jackson impression mixed with Florian, I guess.
Well, speaking of Queen Otohime, for all her fantastic fantasy elements, after subduing the robber, she observes a child who's only dripping from one nostril and smacks the absolute shit out of him. His eyes are like bulging out. Everyone's completely shocked.
So she's passionate to a fault, I think. Slapping the robber, I think, is justified, and then like to go to the extreme of even a child having like the wrong kind of snot. Like she wants things to be proper to an extreme degree. What was her excuse for hitting the kid? His snot was wrong?
Yeah, his nose was running only from one nostril, so really it was the doctors, they say, they want you to be going and be able to use both nostrils, so maybe he had an obstruction, maybe tough love. She's going for all kinds of love. She's got the compassionate love for a horrible, violent criminal, and she's willing to, beat a child as well if that's the tough love he needs. So really, the true, complete embodiment of love. And
she's a goldfish merwoman. Do they lay eggs, or did she have to push Shirahoshi, who was genuinely larger than her entire body, out of her pussy as a baby? It's got to be laying eggs, right?
Yeah. It's the only answer I'm willing to accept. Yeah. So yes.
I'm trying to think if there's any other relationships in One Piece where the baby would have been larger than the mom upon birth, and this might be the only one.
Yeah, because the giants, I'm sure they're all... I think we did talk about that maybe once. There was like was that the Navy Bat games? Like one of the guys was like a fishman giant?
Yeah.
So then that could be like...
Was that Hamburg? Somebody was pissed that Hamburg was not on the tier list. So where would you put Hamburg, who clowns on Sanji and Zoro for a little bit?
Well, he was up in there. He was memorable because, he helped us determine, how fishmen could breed with giants, and it still has lasting impact many volumes later.
He's a friend. He's a guy named Hamburg who's friends with a guy named Pickles, if I recall. So the fact that he went out of his way to make that friendship is pretty telling of his character. He's willing to go for a bit rather than make genuine human connection.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd get up in C tier somewhere.
He's up there with Kobe and Garp.
I mean, maybe bottom, but I mean, like I said, he's there, he's involved, he's a part of it.
No, I think he's above. I think he's up there with Ganbei, way at the top. Okay, tell me more about this flashback, though.
But yeah, so something I also noticed, I think maybe because my girlfriend, she's very musically inclined. She's very fond of an artist named Chapel Rowan. Queen Otohime bears a very curious resemblance. I think it's really just, her style that she's drawn, and also the style of this musical artist is sort of like maybe like, is it the golden age of Hollywood, silver age of Hollywood, somewhere in that ballpark? Just a very like classic, like 1940s and 50s kind of feminine style. That
like Fishverley Hills.
Right. It's like, so far we've seen people like all these women like Boa Hancock or Nami, whatever, that might be like they have a particular style that's kind of been being stuck to. So I feel like there's something noticeably different here.
She's more classy.
Yeah. She's got that royalty quality. I mean, not that Boa Hancock should too, but...
And she's a petition type of woman. You ever have, on a college campus, somebody come up and try to make you sign a petition, Eggy? How do you react in that situation? Do you sign? Do you put a fake name? Do you troll them?
Well, it happened a couple times, but this was back in my day, many years ago, as old as I am. So this was before social media was really a thing at that point. So as I recall, I think there was some stuff like, oh, we're gonna, just very simple, like opening up more recycling facilities, I think was one that I signed, or like an extra plant or an extra building or something for more recycling. And then there was something else that was like about adding like another parking lot or something downtown to increase tourism or something. I think I just kind of went like this. I was like, no, I'm good on that.
I've always felt like it was a big scam. Are petitions really something that make a change? Because it's got to be the easiest thing in the world to fake. Like, can I prove to this city official that I got 500 unique signatures and I went up to all these people? What is stopping me from just having 500 different handwritings? And what, are you going to really inspect them that closely? I imagine the guy who's handed a filled out petition doesn't even look through the names. He's just like, okay, what the fuck? I guess they did their petition. I'll send it over to Congress, I guess. So it seems like a waste of time.
I always thought that petitions were more or less just a like popularity contest for some kind of opinion. But then there was that Stop Killing Games or whatever that was going on a couple months ago. And I guess because they reached a certain amount of unique signatures on this petition, it was like this is how it is in the EU. It was forced to go be considered by their EU Parliament or whatever it is to be like signed into law just because it had a certain amount of signatures. So if every petition was like that, then I would maybe say, oh, okay, that's cool. It actually means something. But all I know is like the change.org petitions that are like, oh, ban this flavor of ice cream or whatever, just like something that's completely pointless and stupid. It gets like 10 trillion signatures and nothing ever happens. So yeah.
And what is her plan here? Like, the history of the Fishman, we learned 200 years ago, they got to join the Reverie, I guess, the world government. And now Otohime, and this is 16 to 10 years ago, this part of the story, she wants to sign petitions so that the Fishmen can join the human world. And the idea is humans are extremely racist and disgusted by Fishmen and don't want to be near them. Why would a petition signed by Fishmen saying we want to join you have any effect on? It's like, what if you were a plantation owner and your slaves all signed a petition, Eggy? Are you gonna give a fuck? Get back to work. What do you mean you all signed a petition that you don't want to live at the bottom of the ocean anymore? Get fucked.
Wait, actually, hold up. New theory unlocked. Queen Otohime, was she really a double agent the whole time? She's been, oh, we got to go up and let's go into human society. It's going to be so good. We're all going to love each other. They go up there. Humans go, oh, Fishman, what's up? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, all right, yeah, we love you guys. You guys, we want you up in the mix right now. All right, cool, awesome, good, great to have you guys. So our tax rate here is 50%. And we need you to pay it to the human Social Security and the human Medicare. And don't worry, dude, it's gonna totally exist in like 30 years when you get when it's your turn. But we need you to give this to us right now. And now we have fishflation, so it's gonna take 2 fish in every household. Got to work. It's no more a single fish. And with the stay-at-home, egg layer, it is what it is.
Also, slavery is literally legal on Sabaody, so we want your mermaids to leave the safety of your island so that we can kidnap and sell you for 70 million berries more easily. I don't know, Otohime, you guys might be safer in your little ghetto. You might not want to join the rest of society. Maybe integration or whatever. Segregation might be key to safety in the end.
Yeah. She's been over here all on the human embodiment of love. Oh, love and peace, love and peace. She's laying it out so thick. Now I'm seeing, okay, I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together, all right? She's trying to bring us up to the humans so we can get into their scheme, into their system, into their, welcome to the fish edible reserve. We're going to print these berries for you. Don't worry about it.
But is there a hole in our theory here? Because we have Miosgard, a celestial dragon. He wants his slaves back. He comes on down, and he crash lands, and Hodi's like, oh, let's fucking kill this bastard. But Otohime takes the bullets, protecting this horrible slaver. So maybe she is on his side. She'll do anything to protect this horrible freak.
And then she goes up, oh, don't worry about it, guy. Don't worry about me. I'm your queen. I'm your, extremely vulnerable, extremely, caring to a fault queen. Let me just go off by myself to a bunch of, slave masters for a while, and we're going to
I'll do some negotiations. Yeah, don't worry. I've got your best interest at heart. I won't just take a good deal for me. Which maybe she won't, because she's crying over every little citizen. Maybe she is the one politician who will do the right thing. And that's why, much like Charlie Kirk, she's got to go. Is that what always happens? When there's a real, genuine person who wants to help out and join politics and not just a fucking gutter rat freak, that they have to kill him? The deep state has to fucking snipe him to death and burn all of his petitions?
Well, when we have, I remember many years ago, small tangent, I was a cashier at in 2013 at a grocery store, and they released, Time magazine had a 50th anniversary passing of JFK, in his memory, and this guy came up to my aisle, or to my register. It's 8 o'clock at night. He's probably 70 years old. He grabs, he's like, oh, well, I know. I was like, didn't JFK want to start cutting out the Federal Reserve and start issuing that new greenbacks currency that was backed up by real tangible assets again? And suddenly he was mysteriously killed, and the Federal Reserve just started taking away the gold standard and everything shortly after. The old man, he looked at me and said, boy, at least some of you kids are thinking nowadays. And then, I mean, that's a real
He lived
thing
it. He watched it happen, and nobody could do anything about it. Things that we watched, that we'll be the old men someday, and some cashier will ask us, so Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, right? It wasn't Israel, was it? Oh, the youth are not all right. We shouldn't have sold TikTok to that fucking Jewish guy. They're winning the brainwashing war on the youth, at least, if they're buying all these social medias.
Honorable mention to Huey Long, a turkey in every oven or whatever, or turkey in every pot, whatever, chicken in every pot, I think is what it was.
I have no clue what that is. What is that?
What was it, 1936? It was either 36 or 40, something. He was running for president, and he was like, hey, we need to stop all these rich people. The quote was something along the lines of, Hey, Rockefeller and JP Morgan, listen, they could all have the nicest car that's ever made. They can have the nicest clothes ever made. They can have enough food for them and their children and their children's children. But what good is a man sitting on, millions and millions of dollars that he can never spend in 100 lifetimes? It makes no sense. I think let him have the finest things that the world could ever offer. And then once they've had that, they could start getting limited, and we could start putting all that excess wealth into something that actually does something for the people. He was murdered shortly after
killed,
that.
Yep. The government straight up admitted to killing Martin Luther King Jr. Like, they're not even trying to hide that one because he was black, so they know they can get away with that one. Who do you think killed Otohime, Eggy? That's the question of the day. Was it Israel? Was it the Bush administration?
Well, it's interesting because the way that this volume in the story plays out here, there's the definitive racial angle. I think even Jinbei, it's either Jinbei or Tiger, I don't have the exact panel, but the word racism is actually used even, which, so it's very well documented. And we know that Otohime, she, for, whatever ends it would have procured for the betterment of society, whatever the case is, the fact of the matter is that we saw what the humans had done to the fish people. We knew the resentment that was harbored towards the humans, and that she was wanting to cross that bridge to see if it was going to bring about that better tomorrow. So I think there was definitely a motive there to be said that somebody who was maybe an ultra fish nationalist would have been like, hey, you know what? The humans, I ain't with them at all. You're trying to make us all move into human land and do whatever they want to do. No, I'm staying right here, and I'm not going to let this happen.
Would it be a good twist if it was Jinbei? Because he's kind of fish supremacist throughout most of this flashback.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely... I think
after watching Shirahoshi weeping at her mother's grave, maybe it was not Jinbei. I would hope not, but...
Well, there could be an angle here, too, where we see this sometimes where someone who is young and suffering very strongly in this young age, it makes their heart very hard, and they're very... they're not looking for that middle ground. They're looking to go all one way or all the other. And so Jinbei could have definitely been in that position to where now, after everything that he's gone through, and his, especially even lately with the Summit War, the Paramount War, and all that, in his older age, at this point now, he could be reaching that softening of his heart, like, hey, I've made it this far. I've seen how being so much one direction or the other could make you just totally go off the rails and make terrible decisions that destroy your life, or you're not thinking properly, you're acting very hastily, very impulsively. So I could see there being a possibility that he was involved in as part of his growth and his maturity now. It's kind of like a something that it could have even been something that caused him to pivot more into softening his character and making different choices in his older age.
But the running theory is a fishman supremacist shot and killed his own queen because she was trying to, I guess, get on the equal level with humans.
Well, that kind of reminds me also of that guy whose name I don't immediately remember, but a picture you might have seen. It was in Japan in the 60s, I think. There was an ultra Japanese nationalist who pulled out a samurai sword and ran on that stage, like with the, there was that Japanese guy's like, hey, we need to stop being so closed off from the world. We need to, we need to be part of the global conversation. We need to be doing more global international unification with the rest of the world. And the guy just ran up and just right through him, like right on stage, right in front of everybody.
Don't open Wano's borders. It's not worth it.
So maybe this could even be inspired by that, considering Oda's,
he's definitely going to be inspired by that one day, Eggy. Don't worry. What do we make of Fisher Tiger? We find out, actually, maybe he did not raid Marie Joie single-handedly, but was in fact a slave who escaped and then freed the other slaves with him in his escape. Which, I was curious how he single-handedly climbed the red line and did all that, but if I guess he started off as a slave, that makes it at least half as easy. And then he chooses to die rather than get a blood transfusion from a human because he hates humans that much based on what he's seen them. His travels around the world showed him human nature, and he just hates them too much. Would you take the blood transfusion over death, Eggy? What group of people do you hate the most that you would reject their blood?
Well, and I think it comes to a point too where if it's hard to say, and I think probably, if I'm going to be truly honest with myself, I think that, if I was in the position, I don't know if I would be so stoic. I'd probably be like, hey, what is this, maple syrup, or what the fucking dirty car oil? Let's see if it works. Whatever, just start sticking it in me.
Hook me up.
Right, but from a fictional stoicism kind of standpoint, whatever, you could say a man might choose to die under a certain circumstance. Maybe, what are you going to live for another 10 years? And or do you want to just say, I've done enough, I've been through enough. I just went through this whole thing where I was showing all this love to the humankind for it to be like this. This is how I find it to be the most dignified way for me to kind of speak my piece and let it end here. Instead of having to engage in this back and forth. I've done my part. I've freed my people. This is going to put my message out to the world in my inner circle. I'm telling them here, what my belief is for the future. Let my death, let my passing really solidify in your mind and in the minds of everybody that will know me through history what I stood for. I'm not going to just be some old guy that falls down the stairs one day and somebody finds me, all rotten up or whatever. I'm going to die here. I'm going to stand on my morals and my message at the very end. So I can see where he's coming from.
We didn't really talk about Koala, the human child who might have changed their opinions slightly on humans, but I guess not enough to make him want to live.
I guess I could say here too, yeah, with that being the case, with Tiger or Fisher Tiger taking in Koala and having her be on the ship, be a part of the fishman culture, showing her love and as she grows, and then taking her back to the family she was separated from, to the humans, and then which then cost him his life. I wonder perhaps then, I guess that whole circumstance would maybe make me feel like Jinbei would be maybe less likely to be involved with her death then, because we see how he kind of does take Fisher Tiger's message to heart about, hey, it's about Koala and her generation. Sees the next one. She doesn't have all this resentment. She didn't grow up in this system where these, somebody else was over her back, cracking the whip over and over again, and each passing day was building up this this deep hatred and this generational trauma that is going to make me never be able to tolerate humans ever again, because there's just been so much of this hatred layered on me throughout repeated infractions that can't be washed away. But she's not carrying that weight on her shoulders, so she would be able to find a way forward beyond this sort of inherent tension, which then Arlong is like, yeah, fuck that, death humans.
But thankfully, Kizaru the hero takes out Arlong or gets him arrested. Eggy, we do have an Eddington review coming up pretty soon that we need to prepare for. So any final thoughts on volume 63 of One Piece?
Yeah, so to mention, I kind of said, there's a lot of complexity here, and I think it's something that at least circles that I have been around in my life, I definitely felt some of these same energies, we all want a more peaceful tomorrow, but then things happen amongst ourselves and other groups, other people who have other beliefs, who have other backgrounds. The tension can become so much that it then culminates in explosive conflict. And you wonder to yourself, what's the best way forward? Does the conflict need to persist? Does there need to be a total victory of one side or the other? is there anything that peace could be arranged by, since we've had this all throughout history where, there's been incredible, horrible war and bloodshed, but then there's been peace and there's been democracy and people able to live side by side. We've been able to grow and have beautiful architecture and ways of living that are far removed from our primal origins by being able to find peace with each other and build to something greater. It's something that does, weigh on the mind from time to time, especially in our current day where it feels a little bit, occupied government style sometimes. Things feel a little dystopian, a little treacherous. I think that, this volume really resonates with all of these feelings of the modern day. So bravo, Oda. He's able to take something that's just, it's humans and fish people and how they're going to get along, and he's able to really instill this serious and thought-provoking energy in all of it. And I honestly, truly do not know where it goes from here, because there's a lot. It's an open-ended thing, and I don't know if there's a fish reel that could, be, Arlong. He was kind of looking a little certain types of ways from time to time. Maybe a young Hody Jones. He just got logged off his Discord server, talking to his Discord kitten, and he's all amped up, ready to go. Who could say? So very open-ended, but I like things that make me think. And Oda, he's very good at that. So just another masterful and extra long volume on the books, and I don't know where it goes from here. I hope we get some more of these cover stories. Very fantastic and wonderful. And
if I recall, it's the longest cover story ever. So hopefully we'll get just nonstop goodness out of it. And we might be the biggest appreciators of it, of anybody, because most people want like cover stories that develop the story, like the Ace one kind of did. But this is just taking a peek at what everybody's up to, which I think might be more up our alley, really, when it's exciting, fun stuff. We forgot to mention, we see the Usopp Pirates a little grown up, and they're reading a newspaper, and it looked to me like an illustration of Buggy the Clown might have been in the paper, and this is 2 years later, so it really boggles the mind. What could Buggy be up to that he's making it onto the paper still to this day? Will we find out soon the fate of time skip Buggy? Hey, you got muted somehow,
No.
I think. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Well, when I say soon, I feel like I know we're still kind of in this flashback and everything too, but Fishman Island, I feel like we got a lot to chew on, but maybe after Fishman Island, once we resurface eventually, I think probably I could see it not taking too long. We had a great time with Buggy at Marineford, and really he's not so far removed at this moment, I feel like. So what would I think that he'd be doing? Will he link back up with the great crew who he knows and loves?
What could he do that would make the paper? And there is an answer, I do think.
If he found that treasure he was angling for, maybe he's
Captain John's treasure. That's right, because he got the armband from Luffy that had the map hidden in it somehow.
He's become great aristocracy. He's like Buggy, the Buggy Gates. Maybe he's out here doing his thing, really big tycoon style. The
genius jester. I think I'm playing this Dragon Quest VIII game, and the bad guy, I think, is a jester. Dolmagius, I think he used to be somebody's jester, they keep saying. So maybe that's Buggy somehow. But we have another podcast coming up, so One Piece, people! The camera's way farther away now. Woo!